Hey y'all, it's Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Thanks for joining me for another crafty venture. Today begins a new venture for me as a design team member for Technique Junkies. You can use that discount code if you're interested in making a purchase. It'll get you 10% off. This, if you want to pause, is an image of all of the new releases for 2020, both stamps and stencils. And these are the cards we're going to make today using one of those beautiful sentiment stamps called Love, Laughter, and Coffee. And we're just going to jump right into the process. So I am getting a twofer out of this card situation today, and I always love a twofer. I'm using just some papers from my stash, and that die is called Slim Fancy Diagonal Stripes from Pink Fresh. So Technique Junkies doesn't sell dies, so we can use whatever dies we want, but I really like this one, and I believe that it helps to add attention and focus on that beautiful image that, again, is Love, Laughter, and Coffee. I mean, is there anything better? Maybe. Family. I'm sure there are things that could go in that list, but that's pretty good for me. And I am drinking some coffee right now, starting my day, and I've got coffee in the video, and I'm just a coffee girl, coffee loving girl. So anyway, back to the card. I'm digressing about coffee. My apologies. So I am just using some coffee colored Distress Oxide inks. I've got Ground Espresso, I think Vintage Photo, and I think the lighter one is Frayed Burlap. I will have everything listed and linked below as long as it's all still available. So you can see that I didn't do a fantastic job of the ink blending, but that's because I'm doing some spatter with both water, and I'm going to pull out my Shimmering Bliss from Technique Junkies here in a minute. But I'm also going to be die cutting it, so you're not going to see it as a whole image. You're going to see bits and pieces of it. Let me back up to the Shimmering Bliss. Guys, if you aren't familiar with Shimmering Bliss, it is a mica spray, and mica sprays aren't necessarily a new idea, right? That they've been around, lots of companies have them, but the colors are beautiful, and the shimmer is over the top gorgeous. If you're a shimmer lover, you want to check out some Shimmering Bliss. And I'm saying that as a consumer, not as a design team member, because I want all the colors. I want them all, and I'm not a full set syndrome girl, so there's that. So I took my die and my ink blended panel over to my Big Shot, and I just ran it through. I had to run it through twice because these are long dies, and my plates are relatively short in comparison, so I need to get some longer plates. But anyway, this is how I'm getting my twofer situation. So when you use a die like this, you get the positive and the negative pieces. So on this particular one, you saw me putting the glue down. I put the glue on the bits that would be the negative, I'm guessing. I get those confused. But anyway, the pieces that we would typically think of as trash, right? The pieces that fall out. So those are the ones that I added glue onto so that they would stick down to this panel. And I'm gently peeling back what would be the positive piece, and the positive piece is going to go down onto another cream colored card panel, and that will make my second card. So I think this is a really fun way to get more out of your dies, more out of your products, your supplies, just all of it. It can be a little frustrating if if you're not a gluer, if you're not a detail person, if whatever. But this part, oh, this is so satisfying. Trimming all those bits. Look at how nice and clean. Oh yes. And again, boom. This side, however, still had a little bit of wet. The glue was still really wet, so it didn't want to cut with the trimmer. So I just took my scissors to it, and look, oh, it's so pretty. It's all nice and cut out. And I hate that I have to speed this up. It's the whole video, all the different segments are sped up ×2, just so that I could fit it all into this video. But look at how nice and clean that is now. And you could have taken those strips, you could have done them in different angles. You could have made like not a houndstooth, I can't think of it, like a chevron. You could have done any number of things, but those are my 2 card panels, and they will serve to be the backgrounds for my overall cards. So here I am taking that beautiful sentiment image, the love, laughter, and coffee, and I want to do there's my coffee. I want to do the 3-tone gradient on the stamp, just like I did on the ink blending on the background. So I never know what this technique is called. In fact, there are a lot of techniques that I don't know what they're called. I just make the names up as I go. But if you know what this kind of gradient stamping is called, please drop that information in the comments down below. I'd appreciate it. Consider myself a lifelong learner, and I'd love to know. So I'm calling it the right thing, especially if I do it in a hashtag. I want people to know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I'm doing the 3-tone gradient with the same colors as I said, and I am taking the edge of my my little microfiber cloth, and wherever I put the ink down, you know it's going to have kind of a harsh edge, so I take my microfiber cloth and I just dab it along the edges of the ink, and it takes me 2 or 3 times with each ink color to get a solid impression. And that's more to do with the stamper than the stamp, trust me. The stamps are beautiful and they stamp beautifully, but Distress Oxides, they stamp okay, but they're not the best inks for stamping. But I mean, they stamp fine. It's more me. But yeah, so anyway, let me get back to the card. So it takes me, like I said, 2 or 3 times to get each color saturated and covered the way that I want it to. And in between each time that I put ink onto the stamp, regardless of the color, I'm taking my microfiber cloth and I'm just dabbing off the harsh edges so that the colors gradiate nice and softly and gradually, and you don't even really see the separation. It just is overall dark to light. So that's kind of the secret to this particular technique, even though I don't know what it's called. And across this particular banner where it says "and a strong cup of" or "a strong cup of," I had a little bit of a hard time getting that to kind of stamp properly here. And of course, you know, had to stop and take a text message. Sorry. Real life happens in crafting as well. And so there I was showing you that I wasn't happy with that banner. So I'm just adding a little bit more ink to it, and I'm gonna dab off that little harsh edge, and with the frayed burlap, that gives it the coverage that I wanted it to have. So it's a nice and solid banner. So again, I had to hit each color more than once, 2, maybe 3 times depending, but in the end I love the gradient effect. It's classy to me. And even though ombre is you know, people think it's a new thing, it's not. You know, gradients of color have been around forever, and the ombre look it's classic. I love it. So here are both of my stamped images, because again I'm making 2 cards with this image, so I have to get 2 of the images. So let me take a sip of my coffee. Oh, happy heart, happy heart. So I take both of those and I use my Hero Arts Infinity Dies Oval Nesting Dies. I didn't say that title in the right order. Hero Arts Nesting Oval Infinity Dies. And I take them in 2 sizes and I cut them out. And I felt like, because there's so much going on with the gradient of color and all of the images, or all the words, and then all the stripes on the backgrounds, I felt like the sentiment image needed some visual separation from the background. So that's why I used that brown cardstock to kind of mat my image with that bigger oval, just to create that visual separation, and just to mat it, just to kind of frame the image. So here is where I'm taking my second piece of cardstock, and again, I don't know where my cardstocks are from. They're just in my stash. I've had some of them for years. So I'm using my Zig 2-way glue pen to mount my card panels to my card bases, and that's just happy, isn't it? I don't know what it is about a stripe, but a stripe makes my heart happy. Maybe I'm odd. I don't know. Well, I know I'm odd. Anyway, finishing up this card panel on the second card, I'm going to glue it down. And what I'm doing when I go off camera to the right there, I'm actually putting them up under my laptop, and that puts the weight down on them to help them adhere properly. So you can see this one I have the lighter gradient up in the top right corner. The other one, the lighter gradient was on the bottom left. This is top right, that one's bottom left. See? So I just flopped them a little bit. So on this one, that little piece of frame there is from, it is Cat Scrappiness. I want to say it's their stitched scallop frame set, slimline frames, and that bit almost wound up in the trash bin, but I thought, you know what, I can probably use that, and so I held on to it, and this I felt like was the perfect use for it. So I am just gluing my sentiment stamp down to that little frame oval, and then I mount it up on some foam tape, not foam tape, fun foam, and then I use that piece of frame, that scallop piece of frame, and I glue it down. And it serves, in my opinion, as kind of an arrow to draw your eye from the right side of the card to the left, because the right side of the card is kind of empty, right? Once I get that oval down on the left hand side, then the right side is kind of empty. So yeah, that gives your eye something to see on the right hand side, and then it draws your eye over to the left to the star of the show, which is that beautiful sentiment stamp. So I hope that makes sense once I get this mounted down. And I'm having trouble with the glue. I have trouble with liquid glue, guys. I just do. This I think is my multi-matte medium, and it's a little too thick for this particular nozzle, and I think that's the issue there. So once I find out what the issue is, and I can typically resolve it, but it's okay. I you know, I got it out and I got it down. So here is what I'm talking about, how that frame, it kind of adds some visual separation to all those stripes, and then when I mount it up on the foam tape, mount the sentiment piece up on the foam tape, and then I glue it to the card base. See how it just kind of frames out the whole thing, and it adds that separation, and it kind of breaks down that striped bit, and I love it. I love it. So on this one I use the fun foam as well, but I put the fun foam on the back of the sentiment stamp, and then I put that on the oval, the brown oval frame. Just, you know, still using the foam tape, just on a different part. So the other one had it on the back of the brown oval. This one is in between. So anyway, they're both popped up, just in a little bit different way, and I'm about to glue it down. And again, I'm going to put it on the left hand side, and then that right hand side still is kind of, I mean, you could stop at any point, you know, just depending on, you know, what your design aesthetic is. But for me, I'm kind of a more is more, and that right hand side on both of them just was a little too naked for me. Even though it's busy with the stripes, it just, in my opinion, needed something else. So that was where I got the idea of just adding that little strip. And they're different strips, of course. The one is the frame scrap, and this one is going to have strips of the actual cardstock that I trimmed off to make these cards. So I take the cream and I take the brown and I layer them up, and then I glue it down. I kind of tuck it up under the brown frame, and then I have it extend all the way over to the right, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. I love wet glue because it gives me that wiggle room, and I almost always put things down wrong. So I need that wiggle room so I can get them right. And I have crooked eyes. I don't know what else to say. Straight lines, you know, images that go, you know, correct up and down. Even if I use like some kind of something to help me line things up, they're still wrong. So I don't even bother. I just wing it all the time, and things come out the way they come out. So here's what I'm talking about. I take the strips of the cream colored cardstock as well as the brown cardstock, and I just layer them up, and I make another strip, of course, but it breaks up that diagonal stripe, and I love it. See, again, you could stop right here. I think they're beautiful cards, but again, for my design aesthetic, I just needed that visual separation, if that makes any sense at all. I hope that it does. So these little clay hearts, guys, these are from Trinity Stamps. They are called Chocolate Chip Clay Heart Mix. They're adorable, absolutely adorable. And you don't have to put any type of embellishment, but that's just, again, that's my design aesthetic, and I love it. On this one, I also take a piece of trim. It's actually twine that has been woven into a beautiful, like, antique looking trim, and I put that across the bottom of that cream colored strip. And then I put some glossy accents over each of the hearts on both cards, and that finishes up my cards. I do the trim and the glossy accents off screen, and on this one I started to use that piece, but I thought, nope, that's too much. So even though I'm a more is more kind of person, I feel like I know when to stop. For some people, I'm sure I'm just over the top and I don't know when to stop, but this is me. So I put some more of these little clay embellishments down, and I think they're just sweet. And then on this one, I take some trim. I take 3 shades of trim, a cream, a dark brown, and a light brown. I think the light brown is more of a more of a twine, and I just tie them across the top and just leave it in a little knot. I'm not a bow girl. I'm more of a knot, K-N-O-T girl. And I started to trim down all the loose edges, but I just really liked the way they curled, and the fact that they brought the eye, or brought some symmetry, I guess, from the big sentiment on the left to the curly things on the right, and you'll see that in the close-ups here in a second. So guys, this wraps up my cards. I'm done with these cards. So tell me what you think. See, that's the trim, and you can kind of see the little shimmer on the hearts. There's a little bit of glossy accents on there. And there's my little knot with the loosey-goosey trims hanging down. I think they're pretty. You guys let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Again, feel free to use that discount code over on the Technique Junkies if you decide that you want to make a purchase. TJ10 Nancy will get you 10% off. And I'm Nancy, the Handy Scandy, and I'll be back with another crafty venture very soon. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.